Hello and welcome to this video, which comes from Starcross on the South Devon Railway, the main line between Exeter, St David's and Newton Abbot. And today I'm walking part of Brunel's atmospheric railway. An idea of Brunel's to use air pressure to propel railway carriages, and it was a scheme that was sadly doomed to failure. I'll be spending some time watching some trains here at Starcross. The beautiful Exe Estuary is just behind me, and I'll be catching a train back to Dawlish Warren, where I hope to see the Torbay Riviera Pullman, which is due today from Crewe to Paynton. And I'll be ending my journey at Dawlish, where I'll be looking at the seawall defences. It's been a few years since I've been to Dawlish, and I'll be interested to see how they've shored up the shoreline to protect the railway from storms during the winter months. So I hope you enjoy the video.
The Exeter to Newton Abbot railway line is famously one of England's best-loved stretches of railway, passing the Exe Estuary and the coast, offering stunning views. The line was built by Isambard Kingdom Brunel back in the 19th century, using local stone that kept the beach intact and also blended with the rocks. When the South Devon Railway was first built, trains briefly ran on air rather than steam. When trains first ran on this section of track back in the 1840s, it was part of an ambitious experiment in railway propulsion that could have changed railway history, and the route was specifically designed for trains that ran on air. Brunel used an atmospheric system of propulsion instead of steam locomotives, with the advantages being higher speeds, greater freedom from accidents, an improved ride, and the ability to run more trains at very little additional cost. This meant installing a pipe of around 3 inches in diameter to the middle of the track, with a slot running along the top covered by a lever flap to form a seal, and the train was connected to the track via an extension arm going into the pipe attached to a piston. Steam pumping stations such as the one here at Starcross were located at intervals along the line, and these created a vacuum which effectively sucked the train along the track. And indeed, in 1847, speeds of 70 miles an hour were achieved, but 40 miles an hour were more the norm. Not only was the scheme supposed to be cheaper, but Brunel believed that it would solve the problem of the very difficult route from Exeter to Newton Abbot, and particularly the section between Dawlish and Teignmouth. However, the design of the system was ultimately flawed, and within a year of the service starting, atmospheric propulsion on the South Devon Railway was quickly abandoned. just come a couple of miles down the track from Starcross to the station at Dawlish Warren. And there wasn't originally any stations between Starcross and Dawlish, but a station was built at the Warren in 1905, but it wasn't here on this site. It was just down in the distance. You can just see the footbridge there where the original Warren Holt station was opened in 1905. This is Warren Footbridge, and this cross-country Voyager is passing the site of the original Warren station. Just a few years later, in 1912, the station was rebuilt about 400 metres to the north in its present location where I'm standing now, and it received the name Dawlish Warren. And the opening of the station paved the way for leisure and tourism, with the estuary and the surrounding area being enjoyed by thousands of visitors every year. Well, I've travelled through this station on many occasions when I lived in this part of the world, but this is the first time I've stopped off here. And there are 4 tracks, with the 2 inner tracks allowing fast trains to overtake trains which are stopped at the station. This signal box is interesting because it is in fact a private house which has been built to look like a signal box. It was constructed after the original station buildings on the up platform were gutted by fire back in 2003, and it's now holiday flats. With my roots being in the West Country, the stretch of railway that runs along the coast to Dawlish and Teignmouth has always been one of my favourites. Skirting the edge of the sea, this is one of the most scenic parts of the train journey to Cornwall, but with the tracks being so close to the water, this stretch is particularly vulnerable to the great British weather. I'm going to take a stroll of about 2 miles or so from Dawlish Warren through to Dawlish Station, and the walk right along the sea wall here is very close to the rail tracks. You get a great view of the trains as they pass by, and we are expecting the Torbay Riviera Pullman, which is travelling today from Crewe to Paignton, and we'll see it as it passes Dawlish. Which runs through Dawlish is the only line that connects the rest of the UK with the far southwest of England, with stations further south to Newton Abbot, to Totnes, the English Riviera, to Paignton and Torquay, Plymouth and the whole of Cornwall. Back on the 5th of February 2014, after a night of heavy storms, a section of the seawall here collapsed, leaving part of the railway line hanging in mid-air. People living on the seafront had to be evacuated from their homes, and the whole of the railway to the south of Exeter was closed for 50 days. Over 300 Network Rail engineers were drafted in to help with the clear-up operation, and world-leading experts in coastal, in tunnel, cliff and railway engineering were also commissioned to come up with long-term solutions to protect the line and the town from further coastal erosion. The priority, of course, was to reopen the railway as soon as possible, but it is estimated for the 50 days that the railway was closed, the cost to the economy of the South West exceeded £1 billion. The collapse of the seawall at Dawlish back in 2014 brought to the fore the need to protect this whole stretch of railway from the sea. Well, it's 10 years on, and there's no doubt that the new seawall at Dawlish is performing as its design intended. It's been constructed in such a way that it returns the waves out to sea, allowing the railway time to recover more quickly from storms. And there are also rockfall shelters up and down the line, preventing material from the cliffs reaching the tracks. This is a view of the improved seawall that has been built to the west of Dawlish Station on the approach to Kennaway Tunnel. And here's a view of the new bridge and stilling basin that's being constructed just to the west of Dawlish Station. This was an all too familiar scene at Dawlish Station during the winter months, but thankfully those days are over, and here's a view of the station today with its new accessible footbridge and improved sea defences. The line itself along the South Devon coast may be stunning, but it is also the most expensive piece of the GWR's infrastructure to maintain per mile. I do remember back to the closure of the former London South Western Railway route between Exeter and Plymouth via Oakhampton, which closed as part of the beaching cuts in 1968. This left the route through Dawlish along the sea wall as the only connecting route to the far southwest. Given the impact of winter storms along this route and the disruption to the railway, there have been a number of calls over the years for the construction of a Dawlish avoiding line. Even back in Brunel's day, he did survey a number of alternative options, but the sheer cost of tunnelling through the steep South Devon hills was prohibitive. Let's hope that these improvements to the sea defences here at Dawlish will protect the railway moving forward, because the impact on business, on freight, on tourism and leisure rail services in the Southwest Peninsula remain dependent on this solitary stretch of railway. The line is affectionately known as Brunel's atmospheric railway, and indeed it has remained an atmospheric railway in every sense of the word to this day. My interest in railways stretched back to the mid to late 1960s, but as I entered my teenage years in the 1970s, I remember the excitement and the anticipation of the new intercity high-speed train, the 125, that was introduced in the mid-70s. This video will feature the Castle Class 43 HST, a group of diesel-electric trains that have become, over the years, an icon of the Great Western Railway, and they were designed and built by British Rail Engineering Limited between 1975 and 1982. On a return visit to Devon and Cornwall during 2024, I was delighted to see these 2+4 castle sets still in operation on the main line between Plymouth and Penzance. These iconic 2+4 castle sets were due to be withdrawn from service a couple of years ago, but here they are still in operation, as they are needed to combat a shortage in trains caused by the delayed delivery of new train fleets. However, their days are numbered. The Castle Class 43 HSTs were originally used for long-distance commuter trains, and they were popular with railway operators because of their sleek design and ability to reach high speeds very quickly. They were also ideal for the non-electrified routes, which were common back in the 1970s and 80s, and of course the Southwest, which doesn't have electrified railways. The class is officially the fastest diesel locomotive in the world, with an absolute maximum speed of 148.5 miles per hour and a regular service speed of 125 miles per hour. The video will feature the Castle Class 43 HSTs on the Cornish Main Line, with locations between Plymouth and Truro. The video will include 4 of the castle sets in operation on the Cornish Main Line in June 2024. These include 43093 Barclay Castle and 43097 Castle Drogo, 43098 Walton Castle and 43156 Main Castle. 43198 driver Stan Martin and driver Brian Cooper, and 43189 Launceston Castle. And finally 43004 Caerphilly Castle and 43042 Tregenna Castle. The word iconic is often overused in railway writing, but for the high-speed train or the Intercity 125, if you are of a certain vintage, the word is most certainly appropriate for these wonderful locomotives. Join me for a look at these stylish trains as they operate along the Cornish Main Line in the next video.